So day 3 of Congress, a busy day. I think when we mentioned on Sunday after day 1, even Monday after day 2, our delegation, we try and get into a lot of debates, but because of the way the agenda was structured and the timing of the debates, we weren't able to get in. Today was a completely different day on that, and we had 5 CWU speakers in today. And I'll run through that on the issues they spoke on. So, first up we had the General Secretary, Dave Ward, who's moving a motion that we put on the New Deal for workers, pointing out that despite all the assurances we've got from the Labour Party and the Labour government, it was the trade union movement, CWU, that came up with the idea of the New Deal for workers. But that's been heavily trailed. Dave's response to the speech by Keir Starmer has been heavily trailed. We videoed that. It's gone out on our socials, so you'll see that soon, so I won't dwell on that. But we had a number of speakers. First up, we had Fiona Curtis of our Northern Ireland Telecom branch speaking on a motion about artificial intelligence. We're not naive enough to believe that AI is not going to happen, but there's a massive, if you like, learning exercise, training exercise for workers to adapt. It's a bit like the climate change debate, the sort of just transition debate. Artificial intelligence is coming, but we want to make sure it's not something that's done to us. We want to make sure it's something that's done with us. And that was the point that Fiona was making. Next up, we had Scott Hartles from Scotland No. 2 branch on the issue of housing for all, which is a debate about affordable housing. And Scott was given his own personal experiences of how difficult it was and how expensive it was when he first left school to try and find affordable housing. And so in the government's ambitious house building programme, we can't lose sight of the need for affordable housing for, not just key workers, but also, for the grades we represent. That a massive house building programme doesn't automatically mean that people are going to be able to afford to buy or rent, and that's something that Scott was keen to press home. I think next up we had Josh Barclay from the Great Western branch, and Josh was talking about in the debate on climate change, but linked to climate change and health at work. I made the point that if you think of the CWU, an awful lot of members who work outside in 30 plus degree heat. You've got Roma workers out on delivery. You've got engineers out fixing fibre telephone lines. And we were saying that there needs to be legislation. Those people need to be looked after and just not left to fend for themselves in extreme heat, of which we're seeing more and more these days. And then finally, in terms of a CWU speaker, we had Kate Hudson, our National Officer for Education, Training and Development, and there was a big debate on the need for skills development in the trade union movement, and some of the cuts we've seen from government funding, and Kate was emphasising why that's a real need for both educating reps but educating workers as well. So, an extremely busy day for the CWU. We always come down here with an intention to make sure that we play a full part in the debate and not just here as a passive spectator and just voting and sticking our hands up when the opportunity demands, but to actually play a part in using these debates, but to represent our members' interests. And I think we clearly did that today. And hopefully we've got some more speakers listed for tomorrow. So hopefully when we do a roundup tomorrow, we'll be saying the same thing.